Hey guys, tonight we step softly through a doorway of warm smoke and flickering lantern light into a world that once kept entire empires awake after midnight. You're not just watching, you're here, your hand pushing aside a beaded curtain, the night air cooling behind you as roasted coffee and sweet tobacco drift ahead. This is Istanbul in its restless centuries, where ideas ferment just as slowly and dangerously as a pot of dark, unfiltered brew. You probably won't survive this if you walk in thinking coffee houses were just cafes. They were theaters, rumor factories, and sometimes, well, low-key rebellions wearing slippers. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the doorway of one of the earliest Ottoman coffee houses, sometime in the 16th century. The street outside is quiet, except for the occasional mule cart clattering over stone. But inside, a low, steady murmur, 100 conversations melting into one velvet hum. Bowls of glowing coals, lanterns suspended on chains, carpets soft enough to keep footsteps secret. Everyone sits close to the floor, relaxed, cross-legged, leaning in rather than leaning back, as though even the furniture encourages curiosity. Your nose catches that unmistakable fragrance, roasted coffee beans ground so fine they feel like silk between fingers. This isn't drip, espresso, or anything you'd get in a paper cup. Ottoman coffee is thick, slow, almost chewable, brewed in bronze chesve over sand-heated trays to keep temperature perfectly controlled. One mainstream historical fact settles in your mind. The first public coffee houses in Istanbul opened around the mid-1500s, arriving from Yemen, spreading faster than any sultan's decree ever could. Someone jokes beside you that coffee was so beloved, some husbands supposedly tried to divorce their wives for brewing it poorly. The room laughs. A quirky tidbit, sure, but the joke reveals the truth beneath. This drink mattered. You notice something else. Everyone is watching everyone. Not aggressively, more like a shared curiosity. Strangers lean slightly forward when a new arrival takes a seat, waiting to see what kind of talk they'll bring. Historians still argue whether these early coffee houses were primarily cultural salons or proto-political forums disguised in steam and chatter. Maybe the answer is both. Maybe the line was always intentional, always blurred. Someone taps the brass tray, signaling the coffee master. He moves with ritualistic calm, spooning foam so carefully onto the brew that you feel yourself unconsciously holding breath. You don't speak. You don't need to. In here, presence itself is part of the performance. Outside, the city sleeps. In here, the night is just beginning.
You lower yourself onto the cushions, and the floor rises to meet you as if it has been waiting all evening just for your weight. The carpets beneath your palms are dense, colorful, patterns of loops and spirals like they're whispering inside jokes only the weavers knew. The coffee is still too hot to drink, so you just hold it, letting the warmth soak into your fingers, the way conversation soaks into the corners of this place. There are no tall chairs here, no stiff-backed furniture. You sit close to the earth, at low polished tables that keep your posture leaning in, toward others, toward shared breath, shared curiosity. Everything about this room is designed to slow you down. You can't chug anything here. You dwell. You stretch time out like taffy. Someone next to you shifts a little, and you hear the soft susurrus of fabric across woven wool. No one hurries. You're surrounded by that unspoken agreement. The night is long, so why rush any part of it? You raise the small cup. No handle, no sugar. Coffee in its oldest public form. It's stronger than you were expecting, almost earthy, almost bitter. But there's something grounding in it, like tasting a place itself. One mainstream historical fact slips into the room alongside the aroma. Historians note that Ottoman coffeehouses were sometimes called schools of the public because literacy, conversation, and debate grew here in a way they didn't always inside official institutions. The unschooled might quote poetry from memory. The educated might pretend to forget a verse just to keep the game fair. A man across the room plays with the tassel of his fez and tells a story about a traveler who tried to judge coffee quality by whether a copper coin would float on top of the foam. You don't bother to check if it's true. The room laughs like it's a beloved old rumor. A quirky tidbit? Absolutely. But no one corrects him. In here, stories don't need to be verified to matter. They just need to be enjoyed. You notice the layout more now. People arranged in gentle clusters, facing each other, forming little galaxies of conversation. Some talk politics, some trade gossip, and others recite verses that sound like honey drizzled over stone. No one voice dominates. The room breathes in many directions at once. Yet there's a tension under the comfort, something held just beneath the embroidered cushions and polite laughter. Historians still argue whether these intimate seating arrangements were chosen simply for comfort or intentionally to encourage discreet exchange of ideas that maybe, possibly, weren't meant to reach certain ears. You shift again, sinking deeper into the cushions, your elbows resting on the table, the cup warm in your hands. It's a posture that says, I'm not leaving soon, and neither is anyone else here. Someone nearby murmurs a line of poetry, soft enough that you almost miss it. What is shared at night wakes with the sun. You don't know if they're speaking to someone in particular or to the room itself. Either way, you stay. The night hasn't finished unfolding yet. Section 3. The cup finally cools enough for you to take that first deliberate sip. It's not a gulp, not a casual taste. It's almost ceremonial, like you're joining a conversation that started centuries before you were even born. The foam touches your lips first, velvety and faintly sweet, though no sugar was ever added. Then comes the depth beneath, dark, dense, carrying a whisper of smoke and stone. You don't just drink it, you listen to it. Across the room, you watch the coffee master prepare the next pot. He doesn't speak while he works. He doesn't need to. His movements are fluent, like a silent language spoken from hand to flame to cup. The chaise rests in hot sand, not on a metal grate, and the sand shifts as he drags the pot slowly through it, controlling heat in tiny increments. It looks like magic, or patience, or both. There's a reason he moves so carefully. The foam is everything. A mainstream historical fact rises in your mind. In many parts of the Ottoman world, serving coffee without foam was considered an insult, even grounds for refusing hospitality. Foam meant fairness, attention, respect. No foam meant you weren't worth the trouble. You take another sip, slower this time. The bitterness lifts and something almost floral lingers at the back of your throat. Someone beside you murmurs that in some villages, coffee fortune-telling was common, turning the finished cup upside down and reading the dried grounds like constellations. A quirky tidbit for sure, yet the idea fits this space. Even the dregs of conversation mean something here. You watch the pour again. Thick liquid arcs from pot to cup in one smooth ribbon. No splashing, no rush. A clean motion, a quiet one. The kind of pour that says, you have time. The room settles around you. The conversations soften. Even laughter seems to roll slower, like a tide instead of a spark. But there's more under this quiet than comfort. You can feel it, the beginning of a shift, a warm current moving through the room with each cup poured. Historians still argue whether Ottoman coffeehouses were neutral social spaces or subtle engines of ideological change. Whether this very act of gathering to sip and talk was seen as a harmless luxury or a subtle threat to authority. You begin to understand why it's a debate no one fully resolved. Because the truth is in the rhythm you're learning, the slow pour, the shared silence, the breath just before someone speaks. You don't feel like a customer. You feel like a participant in something unfolding gently, invisibly, but steadily, like ink spreading through water. The cup empties, not quickly, not because you drink it fast, but because the conversation around you has already carried you somewhere else entirely, and the coffee was simply the door.
Now the room begins to tilt softly toward midnight, and the energy shifts. The conversations around you stretch longer, the tones grow warmer, and a new rhythm slips into place. Not loud, not rowdy, just a little more electric. Someone in the corner clears their throat the way performers do before stepping into a spotlight that technically doesn't exist. And without anyone announcing anything, the poetry begins. It doesn't start as a recitation. It starts as a tease, a single line sung more than spoken, tossed lightly toward a group of young men lounging near a stack of cushions. One of them smirks, repeats the line back with a twist, tightening the rhyme like a knot. Another jumps in, adding a clever turn of phrase that makes the older man at the next table grunt approvingly. You don't clap in a place like this. You hum, you nod, you lift your cup in a gesture that says, "Well done." This is how poets sharpen themselves here, not by printing their words, but by testing them in the air, feeling which phrases catch and which fall flat. One mainstream historical fact drifts in. Many Ottoman coffeehouses doubled as informal poetry academies, where both the educated elite and everyday laborers improvised verses late into the night. Talent didn't care about class here. If you could thread words like silk, you were respected. Across the room, someone gestures dramatically with a long-stemmed pipe, reenacting a scene from a folk tale. And everyone leans in with the same anticipation they might reserve for a modern movie night. You realize you're watching memory unfold in real time. Stories passed mouth to mouth, like flame from wick to wick. Then comes the laughter, a different kind now, sharper at the edges. A Karogez shadow puppet screen has been set up near the back wall, almost without you noticing. The puppeteer is hidden, but his characters, flimsy silhouettes of exaggerated figures, dance across the parchment screen. They argue, boast, complain, and flirt. The jokes are bawdy but not crude, pointed but not cruel. The humor is a cloak. Beneath it is commentary. A quirky tidbit. Some puppeteers were famous not by name, but by voice alone, recognized street to street like local legends whose identities were half rumor, half truth. You glance around. Everyone knows what's really happening here. The puppet arguing about grain taxes is not actually a puppet. The official himaks is not named, but recognized. The laughter is permission to say what cannot be said plainly. And yet, and here it is again, historians still argue whether these performances were sanctioned distractions to release public frustration or quiet rebellions disguised as entertainment. Maybe they were both. Maybe contradiction is part of the craft. Someone passes you a second cup of coffee without asking. It's stronger than the first, darker,
almost smoky. You sip, and the room feels like it's leaning closer together, as though every voice, every shadow, every flicker of lantern flame has begun listening to the same heartbeat. The poets are still trading lines. The puppets are still arguing. The night is just beginning to reveal its second layer. Sometime between midnight and dawn, the coffee house grows quieter. Not empty, not tired, just settled. The conversations become softer, deeper. Words stop performing and begin revealing. You notice the ones who speak less, now more noticeable than the poets who dazzled earlier. They sit with their cups cooling before them, listening intently, as though tuning their attention to some frequency just beneath ordinary sound. These are the Sufi night listeners, the ones who believe the divine hides inside the ordinary, that truth arrives not in speeches, but in the pause between lines. They don't interrupt, they don't compete. They wait for meaning to surface naturally, like the last bit of foam rising in a finished brew. Someone begins humming, a melody so light you almost miss it. Then someone joins and someone else adds a quiet stringed accompaniment. No one announces it as music, it just happens, like breath. A mainstream historical fact, many coffee houses were informal homes to Ottoman ashik singers, wandering poet-musicians who carried stories and news from city to city the way birds carry seeds. They sang not to impress, but to remember, and to help others remember too. The tune curls through the air like incense smoke. You feel it settle on your shoulders. But there is no pure hush here, no perfect peace. Outside these walls, coffee houses have become something larger, places where too many opinions cross paths. The state has noticed. The religious scholars have noticed. The humor, the poetry, the music, they're beautiful, yes, but they're also dangerously democratic. Anyone can speak here, anyone can be heard. And so the Sultan's wary ear listens from a distance. Not always directly, but always. Some coffee houses, in certain eras, are shuttered overnight, closed by decree. Carpets removed, kettles confiscated, lanterns extinguished. The city exhales, briefly. Then, quietly, inevitably, someone finds a back alley room, a basement, a garden pavilion, and the gatherings begin again. This is the quirky tidbit that borders on legend. Some patrons supposedly memorize the exact number of steps from banned coffee houses to their secret successors, passing directions in coded jokes about donkeys and teapots. Historians still argue whether these coffeehouse crackdowns were truly about sedition or simply about controlling public time, about preventing the night itself from belonging to the people. You realize now that the debate has never ended. It simply changed names, locations, lighting. A slow breeze slips through the doorway. The lantern wicks burn shorter. Someone stands. Someone laughs softly. Someone finishes a final sip. And you feel it. The night is ending, but nothing here feels finished. You step outside. The streets are cool, blue with pre-dawn light. The city is just waking up. But you've been awake for hours in ways you didn't expect. And the warmth of that last cup stays with you, carried quietly between your ribs. So now you walk slowly, no rush at all, letting the air settle in your lungs as though it has been waiting there. The sounds of the night have thinned to almost nothing, just the soft murmur of fabric shifting as you move, just the faint whisper of your feet against the street. Everything feels gentler now, softer.
The conversations, the debates, the laughter, they're still with you, but quieter, folded like warm cloth and stored somewhere safe behind your ribs. You don't need to hold on to the details. They're already part of you. The dim lantern glow, the careful pour of the sesve, the flicker of puppet silhouettes, the hush of a shared silence, they drift now like slow-moving clouds, unhurried and without sharp edges. You let them float. You let them dissolve. The city, too, is exhaling. The first birds haven't started yet. The sky is only beginning to think about changing color. You breathe in deep and easy, and you notice how your shoulders are lower than before. Your jaw is loose. Your thoughts move the way the night air moves, slow, gentle, without pressure. It's okay to let the world go quiet now. It's okay to let your mind rest. You did enough tonight simply by being here. So you step into the soft edge of dawn, carrying nothing heavy, nothing sharp, just the memory of warm cups and warm voices, and a night that felt like it was holding you gently by the hand. And as the light slowly brightens, you let yourself drift, slow as the last curl of smoke, fading into morning. End of script. Sweet dreams.
Please subscribe, like, comment, share.